Drive-through workers of Reddit, what's the weirdest thing you've seen in someone's car? Once had a hearse complete with coffin pull-through followed by family and friends in the cars behind. They said the guy in the coffin always enjoyed McDonald's, so it was his final wish to be visit one more time. When I was working at McDonald's, one time a woman pulled up with 3 monkeys and ordered them each an ice cream cone. I still think about that from time to time. A woman came through with no passenger side seat. It had been pulled out, and in its place hung a giant metal ring with an enormous cockatoo sitting on it. Thing was going mental when she pulled up. Not me, but a friend had a customer who had a dildo in the passenger seat. Which is plenty strange enough, but it was buckled in. The driver of the car did not wear a seatbelt, but the dildo did. Great. Now one of my top comments are about a drive-through dildo. More than a dozen teenagers in a small hot boxed car. 39 cents for a cheeseburger, limit 20 was the deal. They ordered 20. I once saw a woman roll up to the window, and she must have been a dominatrix as she had a man in the back in a leather outfit and a rubber pig mask. I can only imagine that was his kink to get embarrassed at a KFC drive-through. Worked at McDonald's, specially in drive-through. Saw a hoarder who could only go to our McDonald's because we didn't have a sharp turn into our parking lot. Her car was too filled she couldn't use her steering wheel. Had someone with a pet pig and duck. Gave them free ice cream. Some dude was getting head. He was the driver. Couple sitting in the backseat were also doing sexual things. He was fingering her and kissing her neck. A cardboard cutout of, I shit you not, Danny DeVito. Good times. I was the driver in this case, but I worked at a grocery store and our order of bananas hadn't come in. I was asked to go to another store in our chain and pick up extra bananas they had in stock. Decided to grab some food on the way back, with my car packed to the brim with bananas. The cashier seemed relatively unfazed and just said, huh. That's a lot of bananas. When I worked at Dunkin' Donuts, this guy came through the drive-thru with a huge falcon in his passenger seat. My mother used to work the drive-thru at Burger King when she was a teenager. She told me that a man used to come through some nights completely naked except for black see-through stockings. Chick-fil-A. A butt-ass naked, except a hat and sandals, middle-aged long-haired guy pulls through in a Jeep with all the doors and top taken off. We still served him. No one was comfortable looking at him except for me. I was the window person. I didn't make an expression and acted like it was nothing to me, and his goofy smile faded pretty quick after the less than enthusiastic my pleasure. Everyone thought I was God. Me 1 pervert 0. Edit. Holy shit, the upvotes. I just asked my mom if I had actually told her that story before, as I didn't live in state when it happened. I guess I failed to mention this happened in the middle of the lunch rush. And she said that made it even funnier. So yes, this was in the middle of lunch rush. We would often do well over 100 cars and sometimes could hit 200 in the window of 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Yerk. Back when I worked drive-thru at a McDonald's, I had this guy ordering who, number 1, took like 5 minutes to order a breakfast burrito and a drink, so I was pretty fed up already when he got to the window. When this car pulled up, I was really not expecting to see a chick wearing nothing but a bra and panties in the backseat snorting cocaine off of an iPhone. I was staring at her while I took the guy's cash, and she glanced up and noticed me and ducked down a little bit. Like, babe, you're in a pretty short car, if I can see the floor from here I can definitely see you. Guy just drove off to the next window like nothing happened. Also served a lady on a horse one time and was subsequently told they had to be in a motor vehicle to come through the drive-thru, but that wasn't as strange since there are horses in our area. Not a drive-thru worker, but I was in the passenger seat at a drive-thru bank and had a funny experience. Friend was depositing money. The teller sends back a receipt and a dog treat. Confused, my friend asks what the dog treat is for. The teller points and says your dog in the back seat. At that point, my friend's younger sister, who had been leaning forward brushing her own hair, looked up at the teller. The teller was very apologetic for her confusion, and we all had a good laugh. Well, except for the sister, she wasn't too thrilled about being confused for a dog. Working night shift at Burger King, had a group of girls flash me for free food. Seemed like a fair trade at the time. A giant industrial-sized trash bag full of nachos. It pretty much took up the entire back seat. When I asked the guy where he was going to get enough salsa for those chips, he genuinely seemed disappointed because he hadn't thought of that. Apparently the Mexican restaurant next door was throwing them out, and the guy asked if he could have them because he was stoned, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. I work at a drive-through car wash. Woman came through with a bucket of KFC mashed potatoes stuck to her window. We cleaned it off. I wasn't the worker but instead the driver. I pulled through while holding a live chicken that I was bringing to my sister. Used to work at the drive-through of Starbucks for some extra money about a year ago. I once had a couple drive up, and the girl had a bunch of bags on her and in front of her feet. From what I could tell, they were sex toys. It was like 10 bags, but I just averted my eyes and handed them their drinks. Needless to say, the guy was pretty embarrassed because he could tell I was uncomfortable. Working drive-through at Starbucks. Some guy pulled through with car filled with boxes. He said they were filled with flashlights and offered me some. I completely forgot about it till I got off work. When I got out to my car there were 5 boxes each filled with 20 brand new Duracell flashlights still in the packaging. Had to be worth at least $500. And he had many more boxes. A baby kangaroo. To clarify, I live in New England and this is not normal. To be honest, I was just out of view of it, but it caused quite a clamor. Slightly off topic. I used to work at a sandwich shop called Lenny's, and whilst I was slicing meat one day a guy walked in and ordered his food wearing a full ghillie suit. I asked my coworkers later on and they thought nothing of it. Former Taco Bell worker. One time a guy ordered with a parrot on his shoulder. I didn't say anything about it, he didn't say anything about it. I still wonder if that's just how he drove around town. A bunch of nuns getting ice cream. It was cute. Worst was probably a drunk lady talking to her dog and to herself, like screaming at her dog. Went around the building a few times until the cops came. Edit might as well post the story from a previous comment in another AskReddit thread about cops arresting people. Not a cop, but at my last job where I was a manager I did get a drunk lady arrested when she came through my drive-through twice. We used to have a second drive-through lane until a drunk driver smashed it, and one of my crew noticed a car was just chilling there. A few minutes later one of my crew grabs me and says this lady is at the window and not talking to them. Headed to the drive-through window to see this lady yelling at someone, and I try to get her attention, she just mumbles and grabs a bottle out of one of those liquor store bags and puts it on her seat. Then she drives away before I can get her plate number. 2 hours later I'm on the phone with another manager and my crew grabs me saying the lady is back, this time she's actually talking, mumbling about an order that didn't match anything on the screen. So I told her to park where we have people wait if they have a large order, and she just nods and heads there without paying. Until then I wasn't entirely sure if she was drunk or mentally ill, so I called the cops. Just as a cruiser pulled in, she drove out of the spot and around to the drive-through again, so I point her car out to him, and he pulls her over at the drive-through window, and she stumbles out. Turns out the person I thought she was yelling at earlier was her little dog, this cute little pug. Wound up having 2 cop cars, a tow truck, and animal control to take care of this lady. I felt so bad for the poor little dog. Edit. One of the cops asked if we had anything for the dog, and she wound up feeding him French fries. Not really healthy for the dog, the animal control guy wasn't too happy apparently, but it was super cute. A tortoise that took up the whole passenger seat. Had a regular who would come through drive-through with a parrot that would angrily demand French fries or chicken nuggets, varied from day to day, when at the speaker. The driver would keep stopping to tell it to shut up. Thought there was a drunk frat boy in the car with the driver the first time I came across the duo. Pretty bird, I usually saved a single French fry to give to him when I heard his familiar screaming through the headset. One time I was working drive-through and I could hear the bass coming from this really expensive-looking Jeep with those blue underlights. We were curious as to who would pull up. It was 4 guys dressed completely like the Blue Man Group, music blaring, they didn't say anything. It was weird. Working at Hardee's we had a bunch of drunks in a Target shopping cart being pushed by another drunk person come up to the drive-through speaker to order dinner. We couldn't serve them because they weren't in a motor vehicle. I say motor vehicle because we had someone come up to the drive-through window on a motorized bicycle or hot rod bicycle and we served them. I need to tell this story. TLDR equals dude pretended to be a car and bought all the chicken KFC had left. It's late, it's been a day, everyone else is finally passed out. The choices are alcohol or fast food. I opted for KFC, cause if you're gonna go unhealthy you ought to really go unhealthy. Plus the Colonel puts an addictive chemical in his chicken that makes you crave it fortnightly. So as I drive up to the drive-thru, I see an SUV at the window and a super large dude standing leaning against a wall just behind it. Thing is it was raining hard and dude was wearing a neon green shirt and my eyes suck when I'm at my best and I ain't even near that right now. So I actually thought he was a motorcycle or dude on a motorcycle or a human motorcycle hybrid. I place my order and drive up and realize, yep, it's just a dude standing right by the sign that actually says something about only cars being able to use the drive-thru. Guy in the SUV grabs his bag and drives away. Big dude steps slowly from the wall, feet make crazy splashes in the puddles, and I'm reminded of the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. And I feel terrible for thinking that, here is this poor expansive asshole who needed what he needed bad enough he walked in the pouring rain, while lightning rang out around him and thunder lit up the sky, only to arrive and find the way inside was already closed. So dude is talking using his hands like an Italian on speed with the girl working the window, and I'm sure she is referring to the sign or their policy of why it's not called a walkthrough, or how it's legal liability if they serve people and they get hurt or whatever other bullshit they told me when I was a stupid teenager and my friends and I tried to pull the on-foot trick ourselves. Except, suddenly dude pulls a double thumbs up and his smiles ear to ear. Then he turns back and thumbs ups me too. I just smile, I don't know what he was looking for exactly, I guessed he was just happy. Then, a few minutes later they hand him over 3 large buckets of chicken. He cradles his arm across his belly, then stacks each bucket side by side supported by his gut. Then dude waddles off toward the fence behind the back of the place and disappears in the wooded area. I pull up and the girl tells me, sorry sir, that guy's just ordered air quaddle the chicken we had left air quote I gave it to him cause it looked like he needed it. What's something else? I was tempted to ask her to give him all the fries they had left in a garbage bag. Instead I just took an apple pie and decided killing myself with alcohol was perhaps the choice I should have made in the beginning. Note: I felt bad for that big bastard, these 4 shots are in your honor. Not weird by most standards, but one of my clients has the largest brownest dog I have ever seen, a Newfoundland, though large by the breed standards. So help me God at a distance I thought this woman had a bear cub in her car. Said dog also enjoys dog biscuits, but is so gentle that she can't always keep them in her mouth, sometimes she drops them outside the car and I have to send out a new one. I freaking love that dog. I once complimented a woman on her purse that was in the exact shape of a chicken, it was made of colored rubber, really unique item. She proceeds to tell me to hold on, gets out of the car and grabs an identical chicken purse and gives it to me, saying that she has been waiting for the right person to give this to. It was used and quite old. Worked at In-N-Out Burger for about a year. More than once we'd have people late at night pull up with opaque white windows. They roll it down to pay collect their food and marijuana smokes just pours out. One time someone just snorted cocaine right in front of me. That and one time someone had a duck and a towel in between her boobs. A pack of drunk people. Not the only time it happened, but what made this one fun was the cop car behind them in line. The idiots asked my window worker not to tell on them, jokingly, after being just as awful as you'd expect a car full of drunk people who saw no problem with drunk driving to be. She came to me as they pulled away and told me, asked me if he could tell the cop. I comped his meal and gave her my blessing. You don't get a lot of wins in fast food, so that one stuck with me. The lizard chilling on someone's dashboard being fed veggies. A cat was also in the same car. The lady in labor, in the driver's seat, by herself, ordering food. She was literally having contractions and doing the weird breathing thing that women are supposed to do to help with the pain. She said she was on the way to the hospital, but she wanted to get a burger, fries, and a soda before she went. There wasn't even anyone with her, that lady drove herself to the hospital while having contractions and chowing down on a goddamn burger. I have seen my fair share of tits. Unfortunately it is usually not the most attractive women who accidentally flash the workers. Dana White and he had like 5 championship belts in his car. There is probably a logical reason why he had all of those, like I know some champions weren't defending their belts and there was going to be interim fights and maybe he collects them before a fight or something, I don't know. But with the way he acts, I think it would be easy to believe he just snatches the belts from the fighters after a fight and rides around with them as an ego boost, lol. Some guy actually dressed as Ronald McDonald behind a wheel seemed somehow creepy. Just a couple of naked girls trying to cover themselves with the same blanket. One time a lady came through and, I'm assuming, her mother in the passenger seat was eating spoonfuls of sugar straight out of the packet. This guy would bring his elderly mother and his dogs through the drive-thru every day, but his mom always sat in the backseat and 3 of his dogs shared the passenger seat. Also, a guy whom I'm pretty sure was a registered sex offender would come every day and order a plain cup of McDonald's yogurt and tell me to give his change to the kids. A waifu pillow. I'm not exaggerating. I gave the man his milkshake and food and he literally put some whipped cream on the pillow. Happy birthday, Stefan. S. Literally hundreds upon hundreds of needles in a backseat of an abandoned car. The front 2 seats were filled with garbage and shit, but the backseat was just filled with needles. Came here looking for the drive-thru worker who was at the McDonald's when we pulled up with me in my huge-ass wedding dress. My grandmother was dying for a Big Mac and couldn't wait until the reception. So we totally did the drive-thru on the way to the church. Thankfully, I did not have to truly see this extra passenger. We had a funeral home close to our store, and their less sociable prep people would come through our drive-thru regularly in the large van we all knew transported the bodies. A handful of times she brought the actual fucking hearse through, but swore the casket in back was empty. You could see she adored the attention and questions, and it was genuinely uncomfortable to talk with her. Only thing I can say I'm grateful for is that she didn't park in one of the car hep stalls. Just a general vibe of nah. I don't need a reminder of where this patty melt is going to land me. I used to work at a DQ Grill and Chill. An order of weirdest things I've seen in a car. A chimpanzee holding a raccoon in the passenger seat, a horse serving as the vehicle through drive-thru, a woman with 3 very lifelike dolls strapped into child seats in the back, an inflatable sex doll, and a parrot. A duck and a goat in the Tim Hortons drive-thru. Was pretty confused when the duck owner asked for a tomato. I went to the store a while back and this dude ran out of his car and when I looked through the window he had used condoms hanging from the roof of his car. Not really a weird thing, but a rather funny occurrence. I was taking someone's money and they were on Tinder and oh, hey, it was my profile they were looking at, though I don't think they realized it cause they never once looked my direction and of course they swiped left. Lol, that's okay, though. Their car was a mess inside, that's a pretty big tell, I feel. One time I saw a midget with 2 wooden poles taped to his feet. He ordered a burger and paid in change. Pretty sure he was a leprechaun. Some church guy on his way to an event handed me a cookie through the drive-thru window. I was very appreciative. Not a drive-thru worker, but tire tech. I've worked on a car that had pistachio shells in anything that could hold them. Cup holders, door handles, gauge cluster, anything. Spuck's drive-thru. Had a customer come through with a few goats in their SUV. They were wearing harnesses that were attached to the seatbelts. Was not a very particularly rural area. Not necessarily weird, but I saw way too many drivers who wear earbuds while driving.